Evening, folks. Welcome back to the View podcast for what was, we all hoped would be an exciting final hour and lots of information to talk about. A deadline day doesn't appear to be the case, but we're going to have a chat anyway. And contrary to the tweet that I put out, we will not be reading bedtime stories. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I got a couple of people excited. So you're just going to have to listen to our dulcet tones to fall asleep to instead. I'm delighted, as per deadline day, to be joined by Alex from the American Leeds podcast, Michael Maynard, Leeds faithful down below, who is when we're in the Premier League, a regular contributor on US and Canadian TV with NBC and other places as well. So delighted to be joined as ever by the two guys. And we'll check in with them first because there's nothing else to talk about. So Alex, first things first, how are you, mate? How's things?
I'm good. And I am not responsible for anything going on currently in the United States with our political leadership. So we'll just get that out of the way. I apologize to my neighbor to the north, the Canuck, Michael Maynard. But you know what? Sports brings us together. And we are Leeds United, and the three of us are absolutely backing this club. So that's where we're at.
That's yes. We won't get into that in too much day. I should point out, Michael, before we do the how are you, is in the summer when we did this live stream, I was listening to BBC's "Don't Go to Bed Just Let" a couple of days later, and while I was sitting listening to it, I heard Johnny Buchan say they got a message from a listener who said, "Why didn't you do a final hour deadline day stream? I ended up watching some Irish bloke and two Americans," and I went, "Well, one Irish bloke, one American, one Canadian, and that's the closest we're going to get to a shout out on any major platforms. So we're famous, lads, is what I wanted to say." Michael, how are you?
I'm all right. It's not the first time Canadians get mistaken for American. We're North American, so we'll take it. Ordinarily, very good relations with our friends down south, but a little frosty right now. It's not just because it's snowing like crazy, which it is. So we got a couple inches out there today. So anyway, it's going well otherwise, and it's been I guess a restful transfer period. If we're just looking at that, aside from the excitement of the matches themselves.
I liked when you said a restful period. Like, just all the talk about staying awake and you think it's been a restful period. We've had a little nap during this window, apparently.
Honestly, I was dozing off, and the amazing music you have at the intro to the pod got me refreshed.
Just wake us up into action and go, "Oh right, we have to talk about something here, don't we?" Yeah.
Well,
good. I'm glad. It's great to catch up with you guys again. I've always enjoyed doing these streams with you guys, and we don't always get to come together, but I really appreciate you coming on and doing this with me. It's always what I've always enjoyed doing. And as we said, everyone and their mother is streaming live tonight. BBC decided this year to get in on the act and did a 2-hour stream. Relax, lads. It's Leeds in January. You don't need 2 hours for anything. You can learn from all of us. There's 498 watching currently. Thank you all for watching. If you'd like to hit that little like button, that just helps us to get the stream out to more people. That would be a big, big, big deal. And I would appreciate that if you can. Thanks very much. But we've got some stuff to talk about. We do. Because there has been some stuff to talk about. Mostly other clubs trying to nick our players at the last minute. But we have got a little bit to talk about. We're going to go and cover what our promotion rivals have done so far in this window. We're also going to have a look at the historical January window for Leeds United. So while there's always the small meltdown on Twitter or X or whatever it's called this week, the reality is probably very different to what we're seeing and what we should be realistically thinking about the window. We'll talk about the Mateo Joseph offer that came in and potentially a second offer. We'll keep an eye on that one over the next hour as well. And then we'll look ahead to the window in the summer and what Leeds need to do for the remainder of this season. And we have had a couple of exits as well, so we'll talk about them as well. Leeds squad is a little bit smaller than it was. Probably need to be a little bit bigger, but we're talking, I believe anyway, I think we're talking fine margins. Alex, if Leeds do nothing in this window, you made it very clear in the summer, you thought we had enough. Where's your head at now?
I mean, I still think we have enough. When we went down, when we got relegated, I said it's not who we sign, it's who we keep. And this is another window in which we had to have maintained the squad, and we didn't lose anybody of significance. And I think the second, I have that's one of 3 points. The second point is, to a man, when they look each other in the mirror, and the gaffer, they can honestly say the gaffer and the board back them. So there's no major changes in terms of the squad. They didn't lose anybody here in the next hopeful, 45 minutes or so. That they're backed, that no one's position is in jeopardy too by bringing another player in competition, things like that. They're back who they have. And then the last thing, the players that where we're shopping, and we're kind of in a purgatory. We're in this like these borderline players, Adam Armstrong, Cameron Archer. I mean, Southampton's got 9 points. They're pretty much pinned for relegation. Are these players that will help us at the next level? So these are questions that I think the board are asking. We might get promoted. We're probably going to get promoted. Or is it worth signing someone where we're stuck with a contract in the Premier League? So then they're dealing with loans, and then your market is shrunk even more. This was an opportunity. I think the January window was an opportunity to sign youth and strengthen youth, which learning we've done a little bit, but it looks like we also have possibly weakened it as well. So, there's a lot. January is a tough window, but I think the punchline is I think we have enough, and I think the players building off of this 7-0 win will look each other in the mirror and said, you know what, we're backed by the board, we're backed by the manager, and we're going to continue to go on this run. So they didn't disrupt the locker room either, which I think is important.
Before I go to Michael, I do want to ask you 2 follow-up questions in one. And I thought it was a very interesting point listening to the Square Ball last week, and Chris made a really, really good point. How delicate are these players in this dressing room that adding a new player to it would disrupt the entire dressing room? Considering that they all know the game, they all know the sport, they're all around it, they could be gone in a heartbeat if the right offer comes in for them, That's the first part, because personally I think competition is healthy and it pushes people to be better. And the second one you mentioned, and just to go back on that one, was any targets that we might be looking at possibly for the summer. And I agree with you on that. I think there is an eye to the summer. Is that a little bit presumptuous? I mean, the game's not over yet. Are we presuming that we're there before we're there?
I mean, that's true, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit of mindset. You have to back the fact that you think you're going to get promoted. As far as the competition point, I will agree with you there. They shouldn't be fragile. I don't think that that's the right word to say either. But, as far as the front line, really we needed the 10. The 10 is the toughest person to recruit for. No, I don't think that they should be fragile in that sense to disrupt the locker room. But Jer, I mean, we looked at previous Leeds United sides where it just seemed like there wasn't the right mix, right? Especially when we got relegated, there wasn't. They all kind of caved. I think this team with like a guy like Gouliavalli. Oh, I might not pronounce, but that experienced head in a locker is huge to keep. And he's a player that you might have rotated off of the side in order to get another 10 or an attacking player in. So, I think it's the right team, and people talk about like Aronson or Ruter. Well, Aronson has more goals, and Ruter is like this incredible player. He's being looked at by other sides. He's going to maybe get a bigger deal away from Brighton. But really, that's not the argument. And the argument is Aronson the right player for us now to get promoted? I guess is what I'm trying to say. I mean, pound for pound, talent-wise, of course, Jorginho Ruter is a much better player if you were to buy stock in them. I just think this is the right team. The more I think about it, I think this is the right team to get us promoted. More with more mental fortitude than last year's team.
Sorry, I'm laughing at this comment because I don't get many compliments, but not Lewis O'Brien. Am I using an AI handsome filter tonight? No, we're just 3 good-looking men, So they're. but thanks for that, Graham. I appreciate the moral boost there. From one handsome man to another handsome man, Michael, what's your take on the current situation? Should we do nothing? But again, and it just sits in the back of my head. Are we just being a little bit cocky to think that the job is done?
Yeah, I think it is a bit cocky to think that it's job done. I don't know if that's necessarily their approach. I mean, I think probably they're looking at it going, can we actually get someone in that's going to make a difference, and under what conditions? I would have liked to see, perhaps another lone right-sided center back or something come in that way that we don't necessarily, possibly loan with an obligation or, an option, that sort of thing. I do worry about injury cover more than anything at this point. Going back to the last window, I was, a little bit upset about the 10 situation. We seem to be coping well enough with it now. And I think we're getting enough production, particularly out of our wingers. But I mean, Aronson's scoring goals too. So, there's still a bit of a weakness there. I think this is a championship, it's a championship squad. There's always going to be a weakness. So I would still have loved to see, a more sort of creative 10 come in. But again, it's January. Are the conditions right actually to make a move? Are you going to be just spending money on someone that's going to maybe at best be a fringe player if we do get promoted? Or are we spending more than we can afford? If we buy someone now and then somehow manage to leads it up and don't get promoted. So there's a lot of risk involved in signing players in January. I mean, I think we have room for loans, but for whatever reason, it's not working out that way. I'm overall not too concerned. I'm a little bit worried about injuries, especially, we have, a physical FA Cup match, against a team that fancy themselves a rival coming up. How far are we going to go in that competition? Is that going to weigh on things potentially? Joe Rodon seems to get injured every match. He always comes back from it, but at what point, when's that not going to happen? You'd certainly hope that he's able to stay match fit, but you do start to get some concerns around that. That's the main thing for me. But do we have enough? If we manage to keep everyone relatively fit, do we have enough? Yeah, I think we do. The one question I know that always comes up is, Meslier is one that we could probably upgrade and actually just upgrade, and whoever we get, it would be fine, for next season. And that's potentially true. But, I think when we're looking at the rest of the season, can we expect that there's going to be one or two more mistakes out of Meslier? Probably. Will they cost us some points? Historically speaking, they have. So will they? Probably. But let's be honest. I mean, the team structure in front, the way that Farka has us set up, the defense in front, we really don't face that many chances. So I think, it's marginal. It's a marginal problem on the whole, even if it looks really glaring when it happens. I'm not overly concerned about it, and I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of comments, just two particular ones, just to highlight that have come in. Tim Egan says, I feel Leeds are more likely the 49ers have blown out chances of promotion again. One or two injuries and Leeds will fail again. And Prague, Dr. Cox, Prague and the board seem to be a little thick in January, to be honest. And although I understand the frustration of both those, and I get where they're coming from, and I get the historical Leeds United be like, well, it was an open goal and you decided the famous Angus comment of, we've got enough. Like, well, we'll find out. I think it's different in this situation to both men. And even Kells, you've said it as well about we don't go up. I think there's a lot of assumptions there. This Leeds United side is a very, very good side. And it has got a lot more quality and depth. I mean, look at the wide options that we've got. Dan James and Manor Solomon, over 40% of all Leeds goals this season have come between those two, either contributions or goals. And their backups are Willie Nanti and Largi Ramazani. No one else in the division has a depth like that in those positions. Our strikers are doing fine. They're not the goal-scoring strikers everybody wants, but they do enough to get us across the line. We are top of the table, and that shouldn't be forgotten. I get the fear, and my fear kicks in March when the international break kicks in, because that's the one that has tripped us up every single year. We get caught in March, and that's where my head is. So I do understand that sentiment, because part of me is thinking, you're not looking for out-and-out stars in this window. You're just looking for cover. Another 9, another 10, and a right centre back, and you're fine. They don't have to start every week. They just need to be players that we can bring into the squad. And if we need that depth, then we have it. If we don't get injured, I said in a tweet earlier on, if we don't get any injuries, this squad is on paper good enough to get promoted. All of a sudden, everyone that came on my channel and online gave me a hard time when I said it wasn't the best squad in the league, everyone told me it was the best squad in the league. Nothing has changed for me. The team is top of the table now. It is statistically the best squad in the league. All of a sudden, it's not good enough. So something has flip-flopped in people's heads. I don't care what Burnley have done. I don't care what Sheffield United have done. They had their own gaps that they needed to fill to get to Leeds level. And I'm okay with that. My point on my tweet earlier on was, for me, it's just a gamble that you don't get injuries. Should you get injuries and should it fall off a cliff, this will be the point that everyone points back to and goes, you didn't do it in January and everybody knew what you needed. However, if we don't get injuries, this squad is more than capable of going on the rest of the season. Leeds are better in the second half of the season historically. Daniel Farke is a second half of the season manager more often than not with his results. Leeds last season, phenomenal after Christmas. We had a 14-point gap at this point at the top that we had to go and still chase. We're now 5 points clear of third place. It's a very different permutations to last year, but I 100% understand when people say this is where it falls down. Because historically, Adam Forshaw is coming back from injury and we've got 2 international number 9s relegated. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so it's that kind of stuff that where that comes from, and I get it and I understand it. But I just think I said it last year that Roberts was enough and it wasn't. And that's this year where I'm a little bit more apprehensive going, if everyone's okay and if nothing happens, yeah, we're more than good enough. However, if you get Brendan heads off to the States to play in a couple of internationals in March, gets an injury because he's been flogged this year, Alex. Yeah. He has been played nearly every minute of every game for Leeds.
Sure. No, it's absolutely. I actually had the same thought about. You're absolutely right about the international break, because those were two. We had this discussion. I think it was on my channel about the international break and apologizing for Farke. Was that a good thing or a bad thing off of international breaks? And should it just be a kind of a wash after international break? I can't remember what we said, but and it was absolutely no. It's like, no, you can't just come after an international break and look flat every time. And it's Junior Firpo going to the Dominican Republic, 10 time zones away and playing striker and getting injured and getting out of form. Like, it's like, things like that. Aronson going to the United States camp in Austin, Texas, again, half the world away, and, coming back late on a flight to play the final, and we don't have a backup 10. So I'm starting to see where you're saying just cover would be probably something, but again, I don't know. Tough to get done. If I were to apologize, I guess being a apologist for the board, which you can call me that. I don't know. I guess I can. It's just, I think it's tough to get this business done in this January window. And I do worry for future windows about getting things done in a timely manner, especially next season. If we do get promoted, it's going to be, gotta get it done quick. And I think you got to overpay for a couple of people. Just to get that done quick, to get that ink dry in June. But I don't know. I don't know if that's enough of an excuse. I'll also say that, look, if you look at last year, we had Ipswich and Leicester breathing down our neck. It's not like we've got a huge gap right now. What is it? Just 3 points, 5 points. But I'm hoping that the table is a little bit different in terms of that. And I'm hoping that that these players will be more professional in terms of coming off of the window. The other time that we sank was after the awards ceremony, where Somerville got Player of the Year, Ruter got one of the huge awards, Meslier got an award, and everyone got all these EFL awards ceremony. They dressed up in tuxes, thought they were the best thing since sliced bread, and then we went back over to, I can't remember, Portsmouth or somewhere, and just got beat. We looked flat, like we own it. Of course, Leicester and Ipswich came back, and we wound up sliding to third, and we know where it came from that. So that's what I mean by the right team too. I think this team has the intestinal fortitude that maybe, even though that other team had more talent, I mean, Ruter, Somerville, and Archie Gray, who was a young player maturing. I'm not certainly blaming him, but in fact, he did nothing wrong. But he was a classic, and we hope we don't get there, but he was a classic, square peg round hole solution for Leeds United. Right now we have square pegs and square holes right now. So especially with that Firpo, Byram, out and out fullbacks. But yeah, it's a risk, I will say.
Yeah, but as you say, the squad is a little bit more depth, a little bit more. There's more goals coming from other places in the park, and we're more balanced. What's your take, Michael?
Yeah, that's it. Getting a 10 in has always been the thing I've been after when we were talking about this, possibly getting in, Archer or someone else in a striker role. I can understand and see the need for that. You get more production out of whoever's playing in that role. It's not like we're goal shy though. Like let's not pretend that we need to find goals somewhere, because we don't. We're, far ahead of everybody else.
Miles.
In terms of, way ahead. Like, I mean, our goal difference is 41. We've scored 60. I mean, the next best team has scored 45. Now, granted, we just had, a really big match where we scored 7, but even without that, we're way ahead of everybody else. So, I'm not too concerned about that. Again, the big thing for me is potentially injuries. As Alex said, we've got the right shape pegs in the holes right now, but will that last if we have injuries? And unfortunately, it won't. I mean, we sort of have an issue now, with Struck being out. Good to see him coming back and getting some minutes in the legs and hopefully getting his fitness back. So, if we can do that, the international break is always a worry. You're always concerned that someone like Junior Firpo is going to break down. We look so much better, with him there. It's an odd one with Schmidt, like why he doesn't even get in the squad now. Like
he missed out completely.
It's just a really strange situation there. But
there's depth again, though, isn't it? There's so many players there that bench didn't have any kids on it.
Yeah, that's it. Like we've got a lot of depth and the, just the pure attacking talent we can bring on in some ways makes up for any potential defensive deficiency we might end up with, even if we have injuries. You see the negatives that when you're in a fight like this for promotion, and it's close. Like I think you can look at us and say we are the best team in the league. The table is not lying about that. Like we are where we deserve to be. The underlyings show that, the goal difference situation shows that, we are definitely where we need to be or where we should be. But, the negative things are always amplified so much because the stress of wanting and needing to get up and always having this feeling that if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. And when the other teams are signing players and, I think we hear a lot of things about, squad harmony and whatever. And I think that's mostly just talk. I think the reality is we have the squad to get it done at this point. And it's not so much about, hurting people's feelings as it is about who do you actually bring in and why do you bring them in just to sit on the bench? Like, because are you going to be able to bring in a player better than what we have right now in any of the positions that we have? I mentioned goalkeeper, probably one you could upgrade. Other than that, what are you going to do at this point? Who's going to drop down to the championship to fight for a place or to sit on the bench at this stage of the season? Yeah. Not very many people would do that. So to me, I mean, I think we did, we did most of the business that we needed to do in the last window. There's a little bit more that I would have liked to have seen, but every team has holes in it at this level. Every team has holes in the Premier League too, unless you're at the very, very top. So, I think we're good enough, and whatever small deficiencies we have, I'm not sure that this window would have provided us an adequate opportunity to sort of cover those off, other than maybe just sort of papering them over with something that isn't really going to help us long term. I've seen comments about, well, the reason we're not signing anyone is because, Farke is stubborn, and there is, there are a lot of stories out there about him sort of being someone who's very resistant to accept the transfers that the recruitment team is putting forward. And that's, that there may be truth. I imagine, sort of where there's smoke, there's fire. So I imagine that is probably true. He's probably a difficult guy to get players for. But is that the main
somebody
reason?
else? It was also quite difficult to get players for.
So what's
the
that?
standard that he wanted versus the standard that they were offering him? He didn't want to deal with it.
Well, no, exactly right. And that's what I'm saying is that, whether he's stubborn or not, the fact is the reality is that with the way the squad is right now, we have basically the 4 best wingers in the league. Like, how do you replace what we already have unless you're buying something above the level of the championship? Are we going to be able to practically do that? And in most cases, the answer is no. I mean, we're looking at Cameron Archer, someone who, is he better than what we have in terms of a striker at this level? Yeah, he's proven in the championship. What would he be in the Premier League? We don't actually know. if he would be anything more than sort of a fringe squad player, how much do we really want to spend on that right now? And frankly, if he's being priced out of the range that's reasonable, then it's probably worth it to not finalize that deal, right? To not go through with it. So it's not so much necessarily just, stubbornness for stubbornness sake, but it's actually taking a bit of rationality to, is it worth it to spend the money to buy the pieces that we need? And even can we, even if we could spend that much, are those pieces going to join us right now? And the answer is probably no.
Yeah, as Pierre says, he may be stubborn, but you have to accept that he is succeeding. I said this during the week. You don't have to love Daniel Farke's style of football to respect the job he's doing as a manager, because Leeds are top of the table, and that's the remit. Yeah. Your job, Daniel, get Leeds promoted. Right now,
exactly.
You're going the right way. A couple of comments just to clarify some bits as well. There's just some angry people. I think we should calm everyone down a little bit. We'll just start off with a couple of small ones. If Firpo won't sign, agents in the club will no doubt have talked. The defensive capability worries me if we go up. Junior Firpo has not been offered a contract by Leeds United as it stands right now. He has said it. Leeds have said it. They've been pretty open about this. They haven't hid this fact. Firpo in a recent interview said that there's nothing on the table. Farke said we won't talk about contracts until the window's closed. So Firpo hasn't been offered a deal for him to turn down. Remains to be seen. Apparently, he's split. He would not mind staying at Leeds if they offered him a new deal, but also he wouldn't mind going back to Spain either if an offer came up there. So Firpo's kind of in this position where I'll stay if you want me to stay, but if you don't, I don't mind going to Spain either. So that's the situation with him. The private plane from Leeds to Bradford, Yorkshire Evening Post today said that unfortunately that was not Leeds United related. That was a different something else in Leeds. Same old We Tried FC. I never get this We Tried FC stuff. This came up on YouTube and on Twitter. Doesn't make any sense. All of Leeds signings, bar Schmidt in the summer, have all hit and hit hard, and Leeds are still top of the table. Do we just want to sign players for the sake of signing them, or do we actually want to sign players that are better than what we've got? And as the lads have very articulately said, how do you get anybody? Larry Ramazani can't get into this team. So who else has gone? And he's really, really good. So
really good player. Yeah, he's an excellent player.
Yeah, so there you go. So there's depth there. So this We Tried thing is
starting Twitter, winger for any other team in this
absolute
league.
Walks
guaranteed.
In.
Walks in starting 11. Any other team in this league can barely get on the pitch for us right now. That's how well placed we are with that position.
Exactly.
I agree with you. Listen, Jerry, if I can just briefly comment on the We Tried FC. I've seen it. I've engaged in those jokes myself. I think where it comes from is, sometimes there's just the team doesn't really shoot down the speculation so much, and it kind of festers a little bit. And then you have Farke coming, doing the press conferences and talking, very cryptically about whether or not he actually wants players or he doesn't. And it kind of sets this weird expectation in the fan base that, are we actually pursuing targets or aren't we? And then you kind of get this hopefulness. Oh yeah, maybe we are, but then we never end up actually getting anyone. So I don't know if it's so much necessarily being upset that we didn't land anyone, but just that people not really knowing what to expect or having certain expectations set for them that don't get met. So I think sometimes it is a little bit about that. And so much of it is just this echo chamber, like on social media of, all these like transfer rumors, and people just get excited, you know what I mean? And then nothing happens. And then it's just the frustration that comes out. I get it, but I agree with you too. Like, it's, guys, let's not despair here. We are the best team. We have the best players. We're not like, suddenly going to, traditional Leeds. I know we do to the leads it up, but I think we're okay. I think we're okay. Yeah.
There was, I agree with you. Another comment that came in, this isn't it. Look, this one keeps coming up all the time, so I'll try and clarify it for you, Jive. Well, all the hangers-on investors will be happy that we haven't spent $1. The worst thing to happen to English football was the Glazers taking over Manchester United, because they have been systematically removing money from one of the most profitable clubs in world football. Leeds are not a profitable club right now, so there is no money to take out of the clubs. The investors don't get paid dividends unless Leeds make a profit. Leeds are losing money in the Championship and will lose money every year they're in the Championship. There is no money to take out of the club, and an investor can't just put his hand into the bank account and take out what he wants. That's not how it works. So, that's been clarified before, that unless Leeds start making money, investors don't get a penny, which is why the investors themselves will likely be putting pressure on Leeds to get this team into the Premier League so they can start making some money. But right now, Those investors aren't making a penny from Leeds United, and there's nothing coming out. All that talk is Glazer talk, and it comes from there. Right? It may happen in the future, Jive. It may very well happen in the future, but right now in the Championship, it's not happening.
And most
Jared,
of the money, sorry, Jared, if I can add on that too, most of the money that these investors are going to make from Leeds aren't from operational like profit, like revenues from. It's not going to be that. What it is it's going to be the increase in value of the club over a period of time if we are successful. It's buying Leeds at a certain price and then selling it 10 years from now to another investor for a lot more. It's a capital gain situation. They're not going to be milking the club day in, day out for profit because, frankly, until we're actually well established in the Premier League, we're not ever going to be turning much of a profit.
Yeah.
I
think this side has been better backed in the Championship than what Raz was backing in the Premiership. Sure.
I'll give you the number. Marcelo Bielsa's team was rated at £13.5 million. This team is over £75 million.
Yeah.
So there you go, Alex. Yeah.
I can't wait because I think I'm hoping that we are going to get promoted, and they will have a huge task because what's been going on, obviously, the past 2 seasons since we've gotten up or we've gone down, is that it's been 3 up, 3 promoted, and then the exact same 3 down. And this season, it looks like it's going to be again. I mean, I haven't looked at the Premier League table. But it looked like the 3 promoted sides were also basically going to coming back down. And so we will have a monumental task to stay up next year. Do not kid yourselves. Yeah. Leicester on 17 points. They're 2 behind Wolves currently. Ipswich are on 16 points. So 3 behind. And Southampton, again, are pinned for, which are players that we were looking at, the team that's pinned for relegation, 9 points. So next window, I mean, we're all hoping, right? It's all theoretical until it's not. We're all hoping that we are promoted next year, and it's a that summer window is a big window, as you've said, here. And one criticism that you've been just bang on with like pair of tweezers is you've gotten to it, which is we have to get business done quickly next summer.
Oh,
like we have to.
We need to get into that. Yeah. Go on. Continue. Sorry.
Oh no, that's it. That's it. That's it. We have to get it done quickly because Farka will be judged, in my estimation, because Farka is a question mark as well. And if we don't have business done in August, and there's games going on, I don't want the argument to be said, well, he was getting in new players, all this stuff. He has to be under a microscope as well, because again, that first season back is going to be massive.
I agree. Now, there was talk this time last year, and bits and pieces that we all heard, was that the 49ers were planning a clear out of the club in the summer, a massive reinvestment in players in the summer. The situation with Daniel Farke is known. If you look at Daniel Farke's sides over the first 10 games of every season, they're slow starters. They take their time to get going. The first win of Daniel Farke was here. All the excuses in the world could be used for the absolute diabolical condition that the club was in at that moment when he came in. And I thought he did a phenomenal job calming everyone down during a really, really volatile summer. This summer, we got the problem was we saw the exact same shape. We basically saw we'll leave our business till the last day. If Leeds leave it to 10 games in to be finalised their squad, Leeds could be down before they ever get past that stage to finalise that squad. Look at Nottingham Forest, the amount of players they brought in. It's taken 3 years for that squad to settle, relax, and be able to play together. Now it's phenomenal looking, but a lot of those players were really struggling in the first year trying to gel with each other. So that can be an issue as well. So it's about doing the business early, giving them time to have a pre-season together, get to know each other, get to bond with each other, get them out in the team, and then get that team unity together that's needed. So it's a big summer for Leeds. It will be a massive summer for Leeds. So look, we'll have to see. Nick's asking questions here saying that the players don't have to be better, but they have to complement what we have. I would argue that right now we've got enough players on the bench to complement most positions, bar again, we're talking about a cover position, a cover 10 and a cover 9. So I would argue that we have got that. And a right-sided centre-back, yeah. But I mean, I always know I'd have liked it. It would have been nice. And I like Amabamadelli because he's Irish and I've seen him a lot. I think he's a tidy footballer. I think he's going to be a very good centre back. I'd like him to come in at some point in the future.
Yeah.
But I've always been, as a coach and a manager, and I played centre back for a while, and I was a right-footed centre back that preferred to play on the left-hand side because I like to come inside when I got the ball rather than outside. And there's different people like that. You could very easily put a left foot or right-sided centre back, and they should be fine. It's not perfect, but it should be fine. The 10 is different because you want a different profile to Brendan. You want someone who's a bit more creative, maybe, and less of a workhorse. And then the 9 for me, I'd have liked Tom Cannon because he's an irritating, annoying, aggressive bully. And I don't think we have that. And I think in certain games this season against the smaller clubs in the division that make it difficult and put it up to you, that's the kind of striker you want to have to just get his elbows into people and cause a bit of problems. So that's the other kind of player you're looking for. Someone that's just a bit different to what we've got with Pirro and Joseph. But it is cover. It really is just cover. And you got young Harry Gray popping back up when you're in 21s. He scored an absolute cracker during last week as well. So maybe he comes in. It's a crazy thing to say out loud, but maybe he does. But I don't know. David's asking about Meslier, but what about replacing Meslier? Why didn't we go for a goalkeeper? Yeah, it's a very valid point. And I think Daniel Farke has very clearly backed his goalkeeper. And I think he's done that for a reason, to say that I'm not going to just penalize everybody for mistakes that they make. Everyone makes them. Unfortunately, when a goalkeeper makes them, it's usually a goal. Yeah. But he's backing them. Now, my take on the Meslier thing is, if he makes another mistake, it's not Melier's fault. It becomes the manager's fault because he put him back in there and he probably shouldn't have. So that's a different story. That was always one that was likely to be the summer. I think that was very clear that Leeds would potentially upgrade Meslier when they had time, and maybe when they're in the Premier League and can attract the Premier League goalkeeper, maybe that's what they do. But yeah, I want to just take a minute just to look at Leeds' historical January windows, because it's not the only time that we've not done this, and there is, fortunately, just context. It's not good context, but there is context to this. I'll just stick up the screen real quick and we have a quick chat. But if you look at the incredibly fancy graphics that you get here on the view, 23-24 season, Leeds brought in Connor Roberts. That was it. Nobody else. The winter window in 22-23 was the relegation season from the Premier League. Georgie Rutter, Max Ferber, Weston McKennie. Georgie Rutter wasn't good enough for the Premier League and couldn't get in the team. Max Ferber did really, really well. Weston McKennie caused problem after problem after problem and didn't gel. The year before that, Sam Greenwood came in, which was an under-21 signing at that time. The year before that, Robbie Gotts and Jordan Stevens came in, both under-21 signings, both left the club. 1920, Ian Paveda, John Kevin Augustin, and Pascal Stroke came in. Pascal Stroke came in with Paveda for the under-21 side, and we all know what happened with JKA. So that is Leeds' January windows since 2019. Maybe they're right to stay away from it, but I think historically, more often than not, looking at that list there, it's come back to bite us on the backside, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is a roll of the dice. I mean, I agree. Being quiet in January is a roll of the dice. You know, I look at that Ruter. When he was an excellent player, we made some money on him. You know, so that was the one that stands out in that. But I just think I go back to where we are now and what we have now, and I think we have enough. And I know I just believe that. And I think to a man in the locker room that they're going to be going, okay, the statement was made that they believe in us, they believe in what we've got. 7-0. 7-0 was the game before that. He's managing the side very well. Pascal came back in. And again, the players that we're looking at right now, the players that have been rumored, I mean, Archer, Armstrong, things like this, these are, you know, borderline players that I don't know if would help us. The only thing I actually want to ask you, Jir, because the guy that was actually kind of interesting to me, and I'm trying to find out his name, but I can't get it because everything's in Russian. But the Russian player, because he seemed like more of a prospect with a ton of potential. A lot of people looking at him. I was like, boy, could we nick him early and get him before he peaks? But that was somebody that I thought was tasty.
Yeah, Spurs chance on the right, and Michael as well. Your take on this? There's been some links this winter that, if you listen to the language, is very interesting. So a Russian outlet, I put this up this morning. A Russian outlet called Match TV contacted Leeds United. There was an article in Russia this morning, and basically when they said they contacted Leeds directly, and Leeds told them that they are not currently pursuing Spurzian. Now the word "currently" is an interesting term. He does have a history with Daniel Farke. He did train under him for a brief period of time in 2022, so they do know each other. Farke likes players he knows. And then the other one is Nico Elvedi, who apparently is very keen to play for Daniel Farke. Again, played from under Gladbach, but he won't come anywhere unless he's in the Premier Division. So these always kind of felt to me like Spurzian's a really good 10 to bring in. He's a good player. He's got an exciting future ahead of him. And Nico Elvedi is a Premier League level centre-back. So they're potentially the summer ones. And that's why it felt to me that Leeds were potentially having that one eye on the summer window of going, let's get our targets lined up for the summer and get that business done early. Michael, what do you think?
Certainly what it seems like to me is you start having the conversations now about the summer and why do you do that? I mean, I think these conversations that you have with players don't usually happen overnight. I think they do happen long term. And especially right now with the window open, you want to have conversations with players you're thinking about for the summer to make sure that, they're not moving somewhere else right now in January. So, if it's possible that these guys are already on the move somewhere or something else is in the works, then you can immediately turn your attention elsewhere, so you want to have these conversations now, figure out what's going on, and then potentially be looking at them for the summer. And that's fine because these are players I think that would make more sense at that point.
Nanto was a person that we were looking at for I guess a window or so ahead. We wound up pulling the trigger on it when some other deals fell through, but I think that wound up working. Working
definitely.
out. The other thing I'm worried about,
iron to the fire though, right, Alex? It's just you have the iron to the fire, and if you have to pull the trigger, you can. Right? If you have to, you can. Nanto's a great example. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
he was meant to. You have that in place for the future. Oh, you know what? Actually, something emergent has happened. Let's actually do it now. Great. You don't want to be, sort of caught cold without that, available. So it makes sense to have the conversations now, even if it's not happening right now, even if it results in the fan base being all a tither, thinking it's going to happen now when it never was. Sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, the other thing I'm worried about year two, when I did, because I do believe that we're going to get up, right? You have to believe.
Yeah.
Is a guy like Mr. Gray, his son, not Archie, or his brother, not Archie, but Harry, and protecting a player like that or any of our other youth setup. What are you hearing about him?
Under 21s for the remainder of the season as part of his development. I think he's just going 16. He's still on a YTS deal, can't sign a pro deal till he's 18. So at this point, anybody could come in and grab him. That's just the way the YTS works. If Liverpool, who get on very well with the Greys, their sporting director and the Greys are all very good friends, should they come in? Because they actually visited the Greys about Archie before Spurs came in for him. They wanted him like Nanto down the road, but it went from they had that conversation a bit earlier. But they get on very well. Liverpool could essentially approach the Gray family right now and offer him a deal to come in as a YTS player and go into Liverpool's academy. And Leeds would have to argue a tribunal fee then for the player, but you can't stop him. In fact, effectively, if anyone approaches a YTS player, Leeds are out of the picture completely. They can't get involved in the conversation. It's no longer Leeds' conversation because they're essentially a child and they're being managed by their parents. So that's the problem with that. But I don't think he goes anywhere. Can we recall, JB? No, that deadline passed on the 7th of January. And also, he's having a good season, leave him where he is, let him play. But yeah, Harry is expected right now to stay in the under-21 team. If you haven't seen his goal from last week, it's the third goal in the win. He kicks it up on the right-hand side, runs down the line, cuts inside, beats two players, squares to the 18-yard line, and with the outside of his right foot, bends the ball into the bottom right-hand corner, or bottom left-hand corner. It's a wonderful goal. Yeah. And he definitely has something about him, but we just need to give him some time.
If we get promoted, our leverage with Harry Gray helps, right? If Liverpool were to approach him, and let's say we're promoted, we have better leverage there. Is that correct, or is it still because of his age?
And I mean, at the moment, he's a Leeds contracted player, but I think it's year to year with the YTS guys. They sign a scholarship agreement, which keeps him. But it's again, it's free to move if he wants. That's what happened with Finley Gorman.
Yeah, I was going to say that just happened, right? We had
Well, Leeds avoided the tribunal because Manchester City said, "Here's £5 million." So no tribunal happened. Leeds took the $5 million, and Finley, by the way, who's ripping it up for Manchester City's under 18s or 19s at the moment, and proving what everyone thought about him. So yeah, you just hope that the Greys look at it and go, well, right now his development is fine here. He's not in a rush to go anywhere. Archie always said he was better than Archie was. Archie himself said that Harry was a better player. So you just hope he'll get that opportunity. The fact that Farke brought him with the team in the summer as well makes maybe Harry feel like there's a pathway here. We don't have an out-and-out number 9. Maybe he, in a couple of years' time, could be the guy that steps in, but I just wouldn't rush him too much. But if he is a generational talent and you can get him into your side at 16, 17, like a Rooney or like a Yamal or whoever else, why not? Why not get him into the team at that point? But, you know, I also wouldn't want to injure him. The Adam Armstrong thing I saw earlier on, and yeah, fine, but does he get into the team? I don't know. I don't know if he does because he prefers to play wide. So I don't know. But
John Percy, the Telegraph, just said, not to do with us, but West Bromwich Albion are hopeful of completing a very late loan deal for Saints striker Adam Armstrong.
But according to Leeds sources, Leeds never went near him. I have no interest in him. I never had an interest in him today at all. Leeds do have an interest in what's his face, Archer, but not an Armstrong at all. I mean, there was a point today where I saw Armstrong's name linked, and I went, fine, like I'll take him as backup, but that's where he'll be, is backup. Like
I think Armstrong is a championship, and I know he undid us twice, maybe
he's a good championship player, very good
championship player. That is his level. I think So, what about Joseph, Jir?
And let's talk about him, because we have to talk about Joseph as well. Let's take him up the screen because we have to talk about him, because Leeds did confirm tonight that the £10 million offer, or £8 million, €10 million offer came in from Real Betis to bring in Mateo Joseph. According to one report, Joseph himself is keen to go back to Spain to play football. I don't know how true that is. I know his family aren't overly happy with his situation at Leeds, and maybe there's a possibility of him going back to Spain. Now, Betis do have interest in an MLS striker as well. I think it's Hernandez he's called, and they've gone after him. But apparently, if they can't get him, they were expected to come back to Leeds with another offer. But Leeds have said he's not for sale. Forget about it. He's not going anywhere. So the question then to your question, Alex, becomes, what do we do with Mateo Joseph? What's next for Mateo Joseph? And personally, I think he's having a fine breakout season. I think he's doing okay. Agreed. I think his pressing is excellent. His hold-up play is very good. His link-up play is really, really good. He's snatching at chances because he's a bit too keen, and he's young and he's eager and he wants to score loads of goals and he wants to make an impact. But I think he's fine. I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do right now. You know, he will get more goals as he gets older. The more chances he gets, the more games he plays, all that will come. He has shown enough in the Spanish under-21 side, and even his games with Leeds, to make me think that there is an instinctive enough player there that eventually will start to find the net on a regular basis. So for me, he's fine. I think if Leeds get promoted, the smart thing to do is to loan him out, because you're going to try and bring in a proper number 9, and then let him get a ton of games as the main striker next season on loan, and then bring him back when he's ready and get him back in the Premier League side. Yeah. What's your thoughts, Alex?
I thought he was going to take the shirt this year, so he hasn't. He hasn't taken it really off of Perot just yet. Hopefully this goal last week, a couple days ago, gets him going. And I just think there's a player in there. I just like the fact that he seems to have a bit of a confidence about him. You could use the word swagger. I like that in a player at his age. And I would love to see him, lead the line for us. You see goals when he goes out and plays international football. I understand it's levels at the U21 to come back into here and all this stuff. He seems physical. He seems like the potential is still there. You'd hate to sell him a little bit early. So I don't know. We'll see. With that being said, I'd still like a number 9 to be signed next season, and him to be as maybe the backup again. So
I agree. Yeah, I think you need a Premier League ready 9, Premier League ready goalkeeper, Premier League ready centre back, Premier League ready 10. I think that's spine right. Michael, what's your thoughts on Mateo?
Yeah, my thinking is that it's unfortunate that we didn't have someone else to play that role, that that he would be able to go out and get minutes for a team that's not fighting for promotion right now, because I think that's what he needs is just regular minutes without all the pressure. So for me, I think the best thing would be obviously to retain him, to go up, to get somebody else, and to send him out on loan and give him a chance to really shine out on loan without the pressure of sort of saying, here you go, it's your job to get Leeds United promoted. Like, good luck with that, kid. So, for me, I think a loan out for him would be great. I think there's a player there. I think he's got a bright future. I hope it's with us because I quite like him. But again, if it isn't, and if you send him out on loan and he develops and then you end up selling him somewhere else, you probably sell him for a lot more than what was being offered for him today, the £8 million or whatever it was that was being offered today. So glad he's not going anywhere. I think he's still got a part to play this season. I would like to see more of him, but at the same time, I don't think he should be necessarily pressurized in a way that's going to, cause him problems like with his development. And we'll see where we sit. But I'd rather him have a loan next year than be sitting on the bench next year. That does nothing for him.
Agree. Yeah, I agree. Tony, your messages are not being blocked. There's 911 people in the stream. There's a lot of messages coming in, and I'm trying to talk to the guys as well, so I can't do both all the time. So I am skipping large chunks as we do things. So
hi,
sorry,
Tony.
Hi, Tony.
do you think 10 million is a good evaluation for him? Is that what the rumor was? 10 million?
10 million was 10 million euro. I think that's way below his potential.
Yeah.
Personally, I think, as Michael has already said, you can't guarantee him for another couple of years. I think his stock is going to go up. I don't think we're doing the same thing that we did with Joe Gallagher. There's an awful lot more to Mateo Joseph's game than Joffrey's. And Joffrey's quite good, but there is an awful lot more to Mateo Joseph. And I think there's an awful lot more. And I think further down the line, you could even see Mateo Joseph operating as a number 10 because his movement is very, very good. And he likes to show really deep for the ball. So you could potentially put him into that place. He's a decent passer as well. So, it's hang on. I don't see the rush to. We can be very quick to decide someone's done and cast them aside. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, look, Max Dean been a prime example. Get him in the bin. He's not good enough. Bang. Look what a season he had before his injury. Phenomenal season in Europe, scoring in European competitions already. So, we can just be a little bit quick. We always say development isn't a straight line,
That's right.
You look at Ilan Melier, for example, his trajectory was like that. He was heading in the right direction. Then you get a couple of years of that and then it drops a little bit and it might take off again, but it might not. And that's the same with Joseph. He's having a bit of a wobble right now. And that's okay because he'll learn from the wobble. And I try and say this to my nephews who play football. It's the old school stuff. You learn nothing from winning because you're celebrating. You learn everything from losing and having hard times because how do I get in this team? What do I need to do to get better? What does the manager want from me? How do I get in? How do I link up with the players? How do I connect better? It improves your all-around game. So,
if I'm in this situation next time, what will I do differently? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like right now, his position, and it's been said, he's suffering from not getting near post crosses because that's his run.
Yeah.
So he needs to adapt his entire game. So he'll have to learn by that being a case of, well, I can't score goals like that in this league because the ball isn't getting to me. So I have to find another way of scoring. So now I've got to look at adapting my game. The big thing, Michael, I'll get your take on this as well, but the big thing on Mateo Joseph is if you listen to his comments during the summer about his training regime, he is listening to podcasts, he devours books apparently on self-improvement and physical improvement, but he looks at training regimes from all other types of sports, not just soccer or football. He wants to know how to be better at all things, more flexible, more dynamic, more his off the mark sprinting faster, his stamina better, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a really interesting kid there that's very keen to learn and adapt his game. So as long as he stays hungry and keeps learning and stays a bit humble and just keeps doing the work, I think he's got the right attitude to be a really, really big player, whether it's us or not. But yeah, we'll have to see. Folks, the transfer window's closed and we didn't do anything. So there we go. Leeds have decided that this January's transfer window is similar to previous ones and we have enough. So Leeds will now go for the remainder of this window of this season with what we have right now, which if we don't get any injuries, as Marcus Celtic says here, we still go up. Let's just hope for that one. So anyway, Mateo, I think we'll be fine with him. I want to talk real quickly about the exits, lads, not the window close. Mike, I'll start with you. the squad's got a bit thinner. These are the confirmed exits right now. Well, Chris Moore's not confirmed. Chris Moore's first one. He's not confirmed right now. He's on trial at the moment in Scotland, and it's likely that the deadline didn't really matter for him because if it goes well up there, Leeds will likely cancel the contract and let him go there for free. He's out of contract in the summer. So is Jeremiah Mullen. They're being let go. Jeremiah Mullen is signed for Dunfermline on loan for the remainder of the season, with Leeds with an undisclosed fee in the summer as an option should they decide to keep him. Charlie Crew has gone to Doncaster. Doncaster fans have already been thanking Leeds for him. He's on fire there. And Joffrey's gone to Hull and has had a pretty big impact already in Hull City. Thoughts on the exits, Michael?
Yeah, not much really. I mean, I think certainly with Charlie Crew, I think it was good. Again, similar to what I was saying with Mateo Joseph, I think it's good that a player who's on the edge like that gets a chance to go out and get regular game time. I think it's the same situation with Joffrey. And honestly, I know we tried along with him before, and unfortunately, he was meant to be paired with someone who got injured, and it kind of didn't work out. But I think, again, that he's not really getting any time on the pitch with us right now. He needs to go out. Whether going out on loan and getting some development benefits us long term or not, you just don't want to see him sitting there doing nothing. So I think it's good for his development at the very least to get out and get some game time. Seems to be doing all right so far. Wasn't really doing much for us anyway. I didn't really expect him to get any time on the pitch. I remember too, when we're looking at Farka, one of the things we know about him is that he doesn't really rotate that much. Like we're saying we got to add more and more and more to the squad, but like why? Because like they're probably not going to get on the field very much anyway. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think those are fine. The other two youngsters, you know what? It's if they're not getting anywhere near the first team right now, it's better for their development again as well if they move on somewhere else. So I don't think it's going to have any impact on the season for us at all. For the development from the player perspective, I think it's great for all of them that they're on the way out. To go
interesting.
We'll get game time.
Sure. Graham Smith has tweeted a couple of things, but one is that Leeds apparently have made a move for Adam Armstrong very late in the window because he became available late. Tom is saying it's true that we pursued him from 9 to 11. We still have 2 hours to make signing. Apparently he became available, but we haven't heard the actual detail on that one, whether they got it done or not. He also just tweeted, he's a piece in the Yorkshire Evening Post, but the tweet reads as follows, and it's an interest. Actually, do you know what? Let's just put it on screen. That one. Stop sharing and reshare. It's an interesting tweet because I agree with the sentiments entirely about this tweet. Hang on a second, I'll zoom in on it so we can see it. There we go. So what he said is Leeds United quiet window was next to silent, confidence or arrogance, financial prudence or complacency, a decision that a very capable squad can vindicate fully or stick with the 49ers enterprises will be brutally beaten. The verdict. So as we've been saying, if we don't get injuries, this squad's good enough to get up. If we get up, no one will say a word. Smart window, big summer. If we don't get promoted, brutally beaten is probably light because you would have thrown away a nearly guaranteed chance of getting promoted from a winning position from first position. So, but I think everyone's in that same position. It's kind of like,
Joe, you've got to contrast that with what you put up already, though, right? Contrast that with the graphic you already put up about what our Januaries have looked like.
Exactly, yeah, exactly the same.
Like it, you go and you spend the money, and then what if it still doesn't work? But then you get beaten with that stick instead. I mean, it's a no-win situation, I think, in a lot of ways, unless you actually win. Any failure, no matter what you do, you don't do anything and you fail, you're going to get beaten with that stick. You do something and you fail, you're going to get beaten with that stick. It's, I think it's a risk to not do anything, but it's also a risk to spend all kinds of money on something that doesn't work.
Yep.
There was a clip of Brendan Aronson after the 7-0 win. Basically, I can't remember word for word, but he basically said that we back ourselves, that this entire team knows that we cannot get promoted. He's saying win, be champions of the championship. That's their aim. Yeah. They're not just looking at, second or even the playoffs, which I know they shouldn't be. So I really think, again, I used the phrase earlier to a man or whatever, but in that locker room, they have to be looking at each other in the eye and say, we got this, we can do this. And I fully expect them to believe in that. I know that there's unforeseen circumstances, i.e. an injury, but I almost think that they're going to take care of their bodies. They're going to manage themselves, and Farka's going to manage them as well. Touch wood, to continue to go on and win.
Yeah. There's this is a point from Tim. We tried same old story, a month to do business, and Leeds try for Armstrong in the last hour. Ridiculous. Now, I think if Leeds had tried to bring Armstrong in the summer, everyone would have said lack of ambition. What are you doing? So, I mean, there's nothing. Look, he's got good numbers for Southampton in the Championship last season. I'm not taking away from that. But there's nothing for me exciting that Adam Armstrong for me doesn't make Leeds better, and unfortunately, and that's the reality.
Last thing I'll say, and I'll just maybe propose this to the audience: is there a player that is coming into the Championship that you're worried about? I mean, in that. Okay. And who did he sign for?
He signed. I tried him up. We look at all the signs. Enzo is a bloody good signing.
He's a very good player.
It's because of a relationship with a manager. That's a very important point of it. It's because of the fact that this is what everyone's done. Now, I might be missing a couple. Graham Smith's Armstrong tweet was a retweet from West Brom attempted to sign him. So Leeds didn't try to sign Armstrong. That's okay. That's that clarified. Thank you for that, Michael, for giving us that clarification. I really appreciate that. Yeah, Marcus Edwards. A couple are saying Marcus Edwards. Yeah, very good winger. Does he get into the Leeds team? Maybe. Brownhill. I don't know if he left Burnley, but I would have taken her hand off for Brownhill. I think he's a cracking player. I'd love him. So if you look at so far, Enzo Laffi and Wilson Isidore for Sunderland and what they brought in. Ironically, Enzo Laffi assisted Wilson Isidore tonight for one of Sunderland's goals. So an immediate impact from those guys. Sheffield United signed Tom Cannon, striker, Ben Burton Diaz, striker, Harry Clark from Ipswich, who was all dancing on the bus about leaving the Championship with Ipswich last year and is now straight back to the Championship with Sheffield United for the remainder. And they signed Hamza Chowdhury, who for me is a decent player as well. Burnley, Oliver Sohn, John Joe Shelby, Ashley Barnes, and Marcus Edwards being the big one. For me in this list, Alex, Marcus Edwards, Enzo Laffi are the two signings of the window.
Yeah. I mean, I think Sunderland is building something. Like, they're probably one of the best run clubs in the Championship. And then obviously Sheffield United, Burnley have just come down and are on the parachute payments. So I don't know. I'm still back in our squad, and I'm fairly confident with it. So, I mean, Iheanacho signed, I know, to Middlesbrough
for Borough,
but like, I mean, there's some quality there. I think that this was a tough window, and I think they were stuck between kind of a rock and a hard place in many ways. And as I said before in the last window, it's over to you, Farka. Just keep going.
Yeah. Burnley brought another player in from Ajax. I saw the link later on, but when I was doing these up, it hadn't been finalized. So yeah, it's probably one or two possibly. Michael, your thoughts?
Yeah, again, you always have the feeling when your opponents, especially the ones that are close to you, are making signings and moving ahead, and you're not doing that you're actually going backwards, and that may be the case. But again, I mean, I think it might tighten things up, and they're pretty tight already. All we have to do is keep winning, and right now, I think we're a couple of mistakes away from actually being really far ahead of the other teams right now. So if we keep going the way we're going, I think we're going to be fine regardless of what these other teams are doing. I agree, Enzo Laffi is a cracking player. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. But again, I'm not scared. It doesn't frighten me. It doesn't make me think that we're suddenly going to to lose or to whatever. We just have to keep doing what we're doing. And we're doing pretty well right now on our own, getting enough points on the board to stay in a good position.
Yeah, I mean, Jeer with an angry emoji and all this stuff, like a thumbnail of you going, like, I don't know, like all this, like that could get more views, but that's not.
I don't want more views.
We're being exactly.
I don't want them.
Right. We're just trying to be as balanced as possible and look at reality in a crazy world of unreality, of misinformation, all this
Yeah.
stuff. I'm confident, and if I would be if there was some place to be critical, I would absolutely lay into the 49ers and say that. I've laid into Farka a lot this season because I think there's just been dry sometimes, but that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it out loud. I don't love Daniel Farkas football.
Same.
But if it gets us promoted to the Premier League, job done. Thank you very much. We'll move on and we'll see how we go. So yeah. I mean, managers come and go at this point. So like, I'm heartbroken by Bielsa. So I'm not doing that again. So
yes,
I'm not getting invested in any manager. And unfortunately, the older I'm getting, the more I'm turning into Roy Keane. We're both from Cork and we share that much, but I'm just looking at it going, just do your job, lads. Just get on with your job. I don't care how you do it right now. Because let's be honest about it. We're halfway through the season. We're top of the table. Next year's going to be crap in the Premier League. Like, it's just not going to be fun. It has never been fun, right? So I'm going to try and enjoy the rest of this as much as I can because for better or worse, Leeds are top of the league. And if we can't enjoy that, what's the point? What is the point at all? And I don't even care if we win the league. I just want us to get out of this. I am sick of watching teams just sit 11 players behind the ball and sit in a block and go, this isn't fun either. Get out of this league. And then next year, it's different. The start of the season, I wanted pure football. Yeah. Now I just want us to get out of the division because, as has been said, nobody else will let us play. So get out of this league and play with our own ball in the Premier League. And I'm okay with that. So
that's it.
Yeah. And this, by the way, this channel has always been about balance. Like I come at this from a coaching perspective. I come at it from being a player as well. I bring on people like Lockie because he has an analytics background and he's a scouting background. I bring on people like Alex and Michael because we have calm discussions about football and we can try and see all the different angles of it because it's never a straight line like development. Like it's never right and wrong. There's always this gray area in the middle. And unfortunately, we live in a world right now where I could put a clickbait headline up. I could put a weird thumbnail of me screaming at a wall, but like, what's the point? Like, because that's not what I want to talk about football. It's not what I want to watch. And it's definitely not what I want to talk about. I wanted to have a proper discussion about football, grown people having a grown up conversation about football. And you know what? We're going to get it wrong sometimes. And I'm okay with being wrong as long as Leeds are successful. So if I think someone should do something and I end up being wrong, I'm not doubling down on my opinion. I'm not going to find a narrative to sprinkle around to make my opinion look like it's correct, even when it's not. I don't care. If I give an opinion, it's based on the facts at the time. If I'm wrong, fine. No problem. We'll move on. And I think that's the whole point of this channel. And having the likes of yourselves on as well, where we can have these just proper conversations. And if we don't agree with each other, we don't agree with each other. And we just move past that again and get to the next thing. So that's the whole point. But yeah, look, we've had a good chat. Karen said there, great chat tonight. And I've really enjoyed this chat tonight as well. We didn't think we'd have had to talk about the hours flown by. I really appreciate it. And before we wrap up, Michael, any final thoughts on this window or what is ahead of Leeds before we get to start talking? Give it 6 weeks before we start getting links to summer transfers. But what do you want to see from Leeds coming out of this into the second half of the season or the last 17 games of the season?
Yeah, keep calm, carry on. I mean, I don't regret to.
Sorry, Joe.
Sorry, laughing at the comment. So no, I don't think we need to do anything other than what we've been doing. Just keep going with what we're doing. And the window as much said that, that's what the club thinks that we should do too. The people that run the club think we should just keep doing what we're doing. And that's what I hope to see. I agree with what you said before. I've never been overly enamored of Farkas football, but it's effective. It's doing what it needs to do right now. We're better placed now than, last season was remember, in most years, we would have gone up last season most seasons. Last season was an anomaly. We are doing enough, I think, to be able to go up this season, whether it's as champions or second place or whatever. We won't even talk about falling into third place because I don't think it's going to happen. Frankly, I just don't. So I don't know. I'm pretty confident. I hope that we're sensible. I don't even mind that. A lot of people say, no, just losing the cup. Let's get out of it. I don't even want to do that. Just be sensible, And I think hopefully we don't pick up any lasting injuries that really cripple us. And luck is always going to be a little bit to play in that regard. But I'm not worried, and I think we'll end up where we want to be at the end.
Yeah, I think so. Alex, your thoughts?
I think we'll know our fate after February. I think February is going to be a key month, and we'll have a much more crystallized thought about where this team's going to be headed after February. The rivals, I believe, Sheffield United have a very tough run-in this month, and I think we have an okay run-in in terms of its difficulty. But if we really put the gas on this month, I think we'll know where we are. February is kind of a PTSD month for us as Leeds fans.
Yeah.
I think we got the lowest point total in February in the Premiership, only to be something like beaten. They set another record the next, something about losses, the most amount of losses in February and the top flight in England. But anyways, this to be said, I think I'm hoping for the reverse. Yeah. And I just think this is a massive month.
We have some tough fixtures in February, but the teams that we're most concerned about have tougher fixtures later on. So if we get through February relatively unscathed, I think we'll be fine. We have a pretty good run in at the end. Some of the big matches we have, Coventry, Sunderland, Blunts, Sheffield United, West Brom. I mean, those are tricky.
We could put it out of sight.
Yeah. I mean, if we do well, if we win these matches, we could actually pull ahead. So,
I agree. Everyone's saying good night. We'll start to wrap up now. There was one comment that I did want to pull, but this is it, Gordon. Great shout by Gordon. And let's remember the January window, we did spend a lot of money. We got relegated. So transfer doesn't always guarantee improvement in play or position at table.
That's right.
A very sensible comment by a very sensible man. So, folks, Alex, what do you want from Leeds for the remainder of the season before we wrap up? I'll give you the final word. Just
win. I mean, it sounds corny. Just win. Doesn't matter how you win. Boring wins. Excite 7-0, 1-0, 2-1s. It doesn't matter. Just win. Yeah. And play disciplined and give everything you can for the shirt, because your salary is on the line. I mean, your promotion is on the line as well. You know what I mean? Like you have everything at stake. And this is a group that will go up as a group. Like last year, Rooter was going up no matter what. Somerville was going to go up if Leeds went up or not. I think there's a lot of players on this group that will go up as a club. So
yeah. Just two final things. Kimberly, our fate is in our hands. It absolutely is. Leeds are in charge of their own destiny as things stand right now.
Keep it that way.
Let's keep it that way. That is exactly it. I have to clarify this. Bad information. Leeds didn't go for Armstrong, apparently. It was a retweet of West Brom going for Armstrong from Graham Smith. So, sorry. Apologies for that, but that's the clarification on that one. Right. I suppose we'll leave it there. News in the morning, whatever comes out between now and tomorrow morning around what's going on. I'm with Joe Blackburn at 12 o'clock tomorrow afternoon over on his channel as well to discuss the fallout of this. Pretty relaxed as long as everything is fine. We'll move on. This is a good squad, and we watch Leeds play Coventry on Wednesday night, and then we'll back to football, and we've got at least 6 weeks before we start talking about what's going to happen in the summer, so plenty of more time. Massive thank you to Alex from the American in Leeds podcast. Massive thank you to Michael Maynard at Leeds Faithful on Twitter, and I will be back in the morning. A pleasure, as always, to talk to you, and I'll see you then. Folks, good night. Have a nice time. See ya. Bye.